The human mind is shaped by experience, and few experiences are as defining as trauma. When we think of trauma, we often imagine catastrophic events, violence, loss, deep suffering. But trauma can also be subtle. A childhood deprived of love, an environment where truth is not valued or deliberately distorted, a world that demands we conform rather than be real. These experiences don't just leave wounds, they change how we see reality. They push us inwards, away from truth and into the safety of imagination. And when this happens in childhood, it shapes who we become. The personality, the sense of self, everything gets built on that escape, on that illusion. This is the actual cause and root of all neurosis. When reality is too painful, the mind finds another way to cope. A child can't change their world, so they change how they experience it. If love is missing, the mind creates a version of the self that doesn't need it. If truth is punished, the mind learns to weave illusions for survival. Over time, these survival mechanisms become the foundation of identity, but they're built on something unreal, an imagined self, disconnected from what's true. If the mind learns early on that it has to escape to survive, then every action in adulthood will be shaped by the same instinct. This is why people find themselves stuck in cycles of pain. The choices they make, the patterns they repeat, it's not random. It's the natural expression of a self that was built to adapt to trauma. If you've ever wondered why you keep running into the same problems, why certain emotions won't let go of you, or why you feel like you're watching your own life play out instead of really living it, this is why. Now, when trauma forces someone to build their identity around illusion, they stop seeing life for what it really is. They see it through the filter of their pain and their fears, their past. And that filter controls everything. What they notice, how they react, what they believe about themselves and the world. This is why some people seem to self-destruct no matter how much they try to heal. It's why people choose relationships that hurt them or stay stuck in situations that drain them. It's not because they're broken, it's because their mind is still operating from the version of themselves that was created in response to trauma. And as long as that false self is in charge, the cycle continues. This isn't just a mental or emotional thing, it's physical too. Over time, the brain adapts to the patterns we reinforce. If we spend years filtering reality through trauma, that becomes our default setting. The longer we live in that state, the harder it is to imagine anything else. But just because the mind got stuck doesn't mean it has to be that way. Here's the truth. You're not the patterns you've lived by. You're not the false self that trauma created. The real you doesn't need illusions to survive. It exists beyond all of that. Healing starts the moment you see the illusion for what it is. It starts when you stop running from reality and face it head on. And yeah, that's hard. It means confronting the parts of yourself that you've spent a lifetime avoiding. It means recognizing that the identity you've clung to isn't real. But on the other side of that, there's something that is better. The real self doesn't need to escape. It doesn't need to chase the same cycles. It just is. And when you start choosing truth, when you stop letting trauma write your story, you step into that reality. And that's when the real healing begins.